Bringing you more now on some of the other stories that we're covering today, beginning with Donald Trump, who's trying to put a stop to any post-debate momentum for his GOP rivals. The former president, who of course skipped the debate, is now capitalizing off his surrender in Georgia. Trump's campaign using his mugshot to fundraise and sell merchandise like what you're seeing there. His base may be shelling out money, but a new poll finds more than 50% believe Trump is guilty in the documents and both election subversion cases, and just below 50% think he's guilty in the falsifying business records case. Now, in that same poll, 50% say Trump should go to prison if convicted in the DOJ's election case, and 32% say they're less likely to support Trump if he's found guilty in that case. Back with me now, once again, Rochelle Ritchie. So, Rochelle, Team Trump is making money off his mugshot, but the question is for how long? Because this photo, it might appeal to his base. It's primary season, sure. But will that photo ultimately help Democrats in the general election if Trump ends up being the Republican nominee?
You know, I'm not really sure that the mugshot is going to help Democrats win an election. I think that when I saw the photo, Alex, I can tell you I was not excited. I wasn't celebrating it at all, because this is just something to pacify. I mean, he still has to go through the legal process. He still has to be found innocent or guilty. And until we get to that level, I think that's when there is a time for celebration, whether you're for or against Trump. I do, however, find it interesting, though, that the Biden administration also sort of fundraised off of this mugshot, because let's not forget that after it was released, Biden posted that it would be a good day to donate to his campaign. And this is why you have people thinking that that our politics is being weaponized through this arrest, the charge, and the mugshot of Donald Trump.
There's that new Morning Consult poll. It shows that Trump didn't suffer at all for skipping the debate, maintaining a 44-point lead over Ron DeSantis. Does that surprise you? And does it tell you he's likely to skip the other debates?
Not at all, because let's not forget that during that debate, the moderators asked the candidates, would they still support, Donald Trump being the nominee despite all of his legal woes? And everyone except, I believe, Christie and Hutchinson raised their hand. So it's no surprise that the numbers are still the same. And interesting enough, during that Tucker Carlson interview, Trump actually said that he didn't feel he needed to be there because, one, he was doing so well in the polls. He's like, why am I going to waste my time? He also suggested that he was going to be harassed and that the network that was holding the debate wasn't very friendly to him, which I found that pretty humorous.
Yeah. Vivek Ramaswamy and Chris Christie, they're the only two, in fact, candidates from that poll who had their support increase after the debate, albeit by just 1 point. But so did any other Trump alternatives, did they emerge from the debate with momentum? Is there evidence of anyone being able to break out and catch Trump?
Well, I thought that Nikki Haley actually did quite well. I like the fact that Nikki Haley actually stood up against Mike Pence when it came to discussing the support for abortion. She really exposed the truth and the fact that the Senate is not in support of some of the abortion policies that are out there, despite what the American public might want. So I thought she did well. I thought she also really held Ramaswamy to the fire on national policy and exposed his a little bit of his ignorance when it comes to Russia, when it comes to Israel. So I think that she did quite well on that. Ramaswamy, I mean, listen, I was watching and I was thoroughly entertained by him and his very big smile. But I think that he may be trying to position himself as a VP pick if Trump does become the nominee.
That is an interesting thought, and I've heard it as well. Let's go lastly with Politico, which says without Trump on stage, this debate showed what a post-Trump Republican Party might look like, saying it's still influenced by Trump and the populist energies he's unleashed. How are Democrats viewing it? I mean, what does Trump's influence mean for 2024 and beyond?
I mean, the thing with Trump is that he's going to be a huge influence up until 2024, because as he goes through these legal challenges, we're not going to get away from hearing about him. What I think the Republicans candidates kind of failed to do is to really separate themselves from Trump. It seemed that they were really fighting more amongst themselves and not showing why they should be the pick over Trump. Now, interesting enough, you can see that Biden wants to go up against Trump. Trump wants to go up against Biden. The Democrats have to figure out, can Biden beat anybody else but Trump? Can he beat a Nikki Haley? Can he beat a Ron DeSantis? Because if Trump is not the nominee, then I think Biden is going to have a real fight on his hand to be reelected.